On folks, Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and is the last day to fill out the Kobold Press Black Flag Playtest Packet 1 section of the survey feedback thing. Sorry, I'm frazzled. I'm doing a night shift. It's throwing everything off for me. But that being said, I wanted to fill it out. It closes at 11:59 p.m. I think it might be Pacific time, so it may be a little bit longer, but it's currently almost 6 p.m. my time. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'll put a link to this in the description. And it says, please use this form to provide playtest feedback. So here's the thing. I didn't get a chance to provide any kind of playtest. And the problem that a lot of you echoed, and I do agree, is that all of this was basically background and kind of lineage and heritage, those being the new kind of replacements for the traditional term race that has been kind of replaced with species on the WotC side and is lineage and heritage here on the Kobold Press side. The problem is you still have to play with a base 5e class to be able to utilize this. So basically all your playtesting is your character option, not the actual class. So I agree with so many of you who echoed if you'd included some classes with this, we could have at least playtested a whole character in the new system. So I agree. So unfortunately for me, no, I'm going to say none. I didn't get a chance to playtest any of these because I didn't, it's hard to just be like, well, here's a new option, but then I still have to choose a base class. Did I encounter any mechanical issues with something I playtested? For example, if a mechanic was confusing, did not work as expected, seemed too underpowered, etc. Well, looking through things, and we're not going to dive too much, this is not going to be probably a very long video. I didn't really see anything that was mechanically confusing for the lineage and heritage. It seemed pretty straightforward, albeit kind of similar in a lot of ways to base 5e, which was, again, another comment that many of you echoed in the video comments. There is some uniqueness. I like the separation of the lineage and heritage, allowing basically the biological aspects of, you know, how you were born versus how you were raised, having separation. And it does allow, I also like, for example, that humans actually have defining features between both, so that it's not just like typically human kind of gets like you get a couple of skills and that's like your whole thing, right? You usually don't get a whole lot more. Then they kind of have this nomadic and cosmopolitan heritage, so there actually is a little something to being like, if you are an elf raised among humans, it's not going to be like you're just at this massive disadvantage because you weren't raised with your own people. So I do appreciate that. The backgrounds were nothing. I don't think anything was super different breaking away from 5e here. Again, the concept of including these talents, which is essentially a feat replacement, is basically what WotC's been doing with all of their newer stuff, that backgrounds no longer give you a unique, interesting background feature. Backgrounds now give you a feat at first level, and now that's replaced with this talent. I did like to see the introduction of the adventuring motivation mechanic as opposed to the ideals, bonds, traits, and flaws that we saw. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I may make a separate video about this entirely because I'm curious. Now, when 5e came out in its base form, 2014, 2015, a lot of people, at least myself included, used to focus a lot on that section because it's obviously written on the character sheet. It's in the book. It seems like it's a big deal. And having seen stuff, I don't think I've seen a single player in the past 5 years or so mention any of those to me. Because in theory, sticking to any one of those is supposed to be the thing, I believe, if I recall correctly, it's been a long time since I read that section, that allows the DM to give you inspiration. And I feel like more often than not, like the DM's like, you did a really good job acting that scene, or you made me laugh, here's inspiration. Not a lot of people playing up to their character. So I understand the switch away from that to adventuring motivation because it kind of just gives you an idea of what's driving your character. And I think that that's definitely something a little more useful to the majority of people. But yeah, we're going to make a separate video on ideals, traits, bonds, and flaws and the usage of them and things like that. And then lastly was the talents. And talents are basically, like I said, a feat replacement. And they are They are basically, they come whenever a character gets an improvement, they're called. And you can choose to get an improvement of either a talent or increase basically an ability score, as you would normally do in 5e. And then the talents are broken up into magic, martial, and technical. This kind of being the magic-y types, the fighter types, or the skill types, like your bards, your rogues. I guess presumably your rangers as well. And I understand the... So this is an interesting one. 5e kind of shies away from this, although it does look like they're going towards that with 1D&D, of feats being grouped into different things, because base 5e was very open. There was no real restrictions in how you could take a feat. It was basically, if it had a prerequisite, you met it, and that was it. Now they seem to be going, and again, Kobold Press is echoing this here, that they're going more in the way of sort of restricting things, and that, like, okay, if you're a magic person, you can take a magic feat, right? And I see that most of these have the ability to cast spells, although Mental Fortitude does not, but it's listed as a magic talent. Most magic talents affect a character's spell casting, but they also include features that strengthen the mind and defend against harmful magics. Your class typically determines which talent list you have access to. So, again, I assume things like Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard are going to have access to the magic talents. Maybe some classes will be able to dip in between, kind of, again, like we're seeing in 1D&D. But none of the mechanics here really seem... the only one was this one Mental Fortitude mechanic seemed a little odd. If you're affected by an ongoing spell or magical effect due to failing an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save, you can repeat that saving throw at the end of each of your... Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not that one. It's the first one. Once per long rest, when you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save, you can choose to re-roll the result and take the new result. You must declare your intention to re-roll before the results of the save are resolved. That, in and of itself, to me, sounds directly contradictory in that it says when you fail a save, but then it says you must declare before the save results... to reroll before the results of the save are resolved. How can you do that if the trigger for this is on you failing? So that's what I'm gonna suggest, because that's the only thing I think mechanically that confused me or seemed unclear. Everything else seemed pretty straightforward to me. Mental fortitude talent. How can I declare my intention to reroll if the trigger for the reroll is me already failing the save? These two statements contradict themselves. I think there might have been one other one that didn't make sense to me. I think they have already changed some of this. For example, the damage type being limited based on the size of the creature. I think that's already been changed. Oh, and this one. Combat conditioning. Your HP maximum increases by 2 for each level you currently have. Whenever you gain a level, your new hit die is one size larger, and it says if you already have a d20, it doesn't do anything, so there's no reason. So this is basically a replacement for tough, it seems like. But a barbarian has no use to take it unless they take it at last level. So we're going to put in about that. Combat conditioning. It doesn't seem... there's a reason for a barbarian to take this unless they take it at a later level. The HP addition does not appear to be retroactive. Okay. Do you have strong feelings towards anything you play tested? I didn't play test, but I wish there was more content. Also, I'm genuinely curious. No. I don't really have strong feelings. I was going to say I'm genuinely curious about what you were working on before you pivoted to working with the SRT 5.1, but that's really outside of the scope of this. And that's it. It's pretty simplistic stuff. I gave the things, I'm just going to throw it here. I'd be curious to hear your feedback from to the comments about how this seems to have been hastily put together and is not a far stretch from base 5e/1 D&D. If you could explain in a future blog post or interview how your plan your playtest feedback integration, that would be appreciated. All right. That's it, folks. Not too much to add here. It was a pretty simplistic survey, and there wasn't a lot of content. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.